Welcome back to the AI Ripple Effect podcast, everybody. Today, we are very lucky enough to be joined by Gino Carnevale, who is the VP of Sales and Strategic Partnerships at efRouting. So welcome to the podcast, Gino. Good to have you.
Hey, thank you, Adrian. It's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure we're going to get into some really interesting conversations. So why don't you kick us off by giving us a little bit more about your background, where you've come from, a little bit about what efRouting do and who you serve from a customer perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. So on a personal background level, I'm actually coming from outside the industry. Just within the last couple of years, I was in the winemaking industry in California for about 5 to 6 years. And that's what actually brought me into the efRouting project was the connections I made at the University of California, Davis. The guys that founded this company, we had become good friends in grad school, working in different departments. And once the company got off the ground, they were looking for people to be leading sales. And that's where I jumped in. And I've been with the company almost 2 years now. So
Awesome.
That's how I got involved. And then in terms of, you wanted to jump straight into the background of efRouting?
I mean, where the business has come from. It sounds you've already given us a taster for that, but then also what you guys provide to your customers and who your typical customer profile is.
Oh, yeah, sure. So efRouting came from academia. The founders are all from logistics science, essentially. So engineers in the industrial engineering, civil engineering space who were working on projects for optimization models for the logistics industry, specifically truckload carriers. And the idea really was, how do we take a fleet of OTR trucks and make sure they're profitable in a market that is really fragmented, is super chaotic, and it's just hard to understand market trends in real time. It always seems that people are making decisions almost blindly because of the chaos of the market. It's really difficult to track those patterns. But with the power of optimization algorithms and parallel computing, efRouting was born. So it's an algorithm that is able to, in real time, analyze a bunch of different segments of the market and generate plans that are going to be profitable for a small fleet. And so that's essentially our audience. We serve small to mid-sized carriers, particularly owner-operators and like 5 to 20 truck fleets who are primarily finding their freight in the marketplace, on the spot market. That's where we're able to help the most. We can drive up profitability in a major way just by building plans that reduce the amount of waste in their operation. So the amount of times where the truck is sitting empty for days because the load that it took went somewhere where there just wasn't a load out the next day that they were able to book. Same with deadhead. They might leave that location and drive hundreds of miles to get their next load. And so with our optimization, we're making suggestions about which lanes to move your trucks loaded so that you're avoiding all of that waste. And it's been great. So we've been in the market about 2 years, a little under 2 years now, and customers have seen really great progress and major boost to their bottom line. And it's been a hard time for the industry in general, but there are definitely people that are growing, and it's been awesome to see how efRouting has been able to be a part of that.
Awesome. Sounds fascinating. I know many moons ago when I was at college looking at things like Monte Carlo simulations to look at how you optimize using Blue algorithms. Sounds a kind of fascinating subject area that your founders are focusing or drilling down on. That's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a little over my head, a little geeky, but all about stochastic optimization and things. The more I learn, the more I'm confused, but it's pretty cool to be a part of it.
Takes a certain person, I think, to get into that detail, but it's fascinating stuff. And obviously, you talked about the chaos you're experiencing in the market and how people are trying to adapt to that chaos. What other trends are you seeing across your customer base and your interactions in the logistics market from a macro level? Are you seeing labor market issues, continued cost pressures? What are the themes you're seeing?
Yeah, it's funny, the major trend that we've seen in the last year, and it's actually caused us to pivot and focus a little bit more of our roadmap and development on a new tool for fuel cost, because essentially the rates after the peak around the pandemic time dropped and kept dropping. They've steadied out, but at the same time, inflation and fuel costs have risen to the point where a lot of companies, even if they can get even slightly above the average rate per mile, if they can't reduce their fuel costs, they're going to go out of business. Maybe they aren't fully aware. We've talked to some companies that, those lines are just looking parallel enough that they think they're fine, but they're actually converging.
Right.
And so maybe a year from now, 2 years from now, if they haven't reduced that operating cost, they're looking at bankruptcies. The fuel cost has been something where if it keeps ticking upward, there has to be something done. What we can do is optimization. So we can look at where the pricing varies on a certain route and guide a truck to take advantage of the cheapest price to reduce their price per gallon as much as possible.
Right.
The other trend on the labor side, or maybe just more generally on the market side, has been in the truckload market. There's been a shift happening ever since the ELD mandate, really, to basically break up full truckloads into partial loads and put them into vehicles that aren't closely regulated by those FMCSA mandates. So a flatbed load can be put onto 2 small flatbeds and driven by hotshot trucks. And those hotshot truck drivers, if the weight's low enough, they don't even need a CDL. And they can drive all night. They can drive for 24 hours. And technically it's not illegal because their weight level is low enough for that load. Same for van loads, can be broken up, put into Sprinter vans. I would say it's something that I haven't seen talked about a lot out openly, but from what we see on what we talk about with our customers, a lot more people are buying hot shots, buying Sprinter vans and jumping into those markets. That's been a major shift, I'd say.
Right. And what are the key pressures you guys are experiencing yourselves in the market? Is it around the changing nature of the variation? Even tariffs are fluctuating from a day-to-day basis. Is this something you guys are under pressure with?
The pressure on us, just as a software, is a little bit less. So our founders are from Colombia and Chile, and we've been able to take advantage of a labor market in those countries just because of the connections that they already had with the universities that they come from there. They basically have access to a really great pool of talent coming straight out of those universities. We have a lot of connection to Colombia. So when there's things talking about changing taxes and tariffs on services from Colombia to the U.S., that can put some pressure on us. But at the end, the cost savings makes it so that it's not a huge pressure. Even if tariffs were to come in, the amount of money we're saving by being able to have development in Colombia, it really helps.
Sure.
So.
What are your take on AI in logistics? As a positive force? I mean, does it help augment your development capabilities, or is it disruptive and a negative impact on your space, either within your business or also for your customers?
I would say in the long run, it's going to be very disruptive, especially just because of the nature of the operations for our customers as spot market operators who have to have people calling all the time to book loads with brokers. Now the brokers are more likely to already have an AI agent answering the call and maybe sending the emails with the paperwork and things. Now, just in maybe the last year, it's become more of a focus of these AI agent softwares to focus on the carrier side. So they already built the agent for the broker side. Now they already know how that agent's going to respond. So now they're building the agent for the carrier. So now the interactions are basically AI agent to AI agent doing their processes for negotiating the rate and then handling all the paperwork. So the automation and the potential for it to speed things up, regulate pricing at a more steady way so that you don't have all these outliers where because the dispatcher was so good at negotiating and the broker was just lazy, that one load went for a really high rate. That then makes all the other dispatchers who see that data say, hey, someone got paid $5 a mile for this trip. I should be asking for $5 a mile, which just slows things down because in reality, the brokers they're calling and offering $5 a mile are just saying, no, I'm going to move on my way. But that builds up all of those micro transactions that are kind of wasted time.
Sure.
But yeah, I think it'll end up being really helpful for regulating the market, really removing the chaos of the negotiation for the load and standardizing the bidding process and all of it.
Do you see it I guess you guys are inherently using it within your tech platform anyway. And do you see it more and more as an adoptive technology amongst your customers beyond just pricing?
Yeah, actually, really, as far as efRouting's use of AI, it's just ChatGPT to help the developers. So they're bouncing things off of it and copying and pasting code that would have taken them hours into the into the system. But we haven't fully integrated AI with like our sales processes or anything like that yet. We've played around with an AI agent for calling, but our customers, the cold calling and just the calling in general is not really the ideal way to approach them. It seems that if we can't get in front of them at a trade show or at a truck stop or get a referral from another customer, that the AI can't really sell to this customer base very easily, just from what we've seen. So it hasn't really been something we've focused on. But I do think for other, not necessarily other industries, but I guess other segments of the market, it could be really impactful. I guess as we grow and look to focus more on larger carriers where maybe the processes of sales are more rudimentary, just have to have a quick conversation with a decision maker to set up a meeting, and then that time saving could be really useful. I could see us using it.
Okay. That's cool. Really interesting. Thanks for that insight. So on your, you're quite a young company, quite dynamic. So probably it's been a bit of a roller coaster ride. In that journey that you've been through over the last couple of years, what have been the dips in that ride? What have been the challenges you've had to address, and how did you overcome those?
Yeah, it has been a wild ride. I'd say for the most part, the last 2 years, the biggest challenges have been recreating ourselves in the terms of development and how the platform usability works. When we first launched, we had just the optimization, analyzing the market and making suggestions. And then the user was left to their own devices to go log into load boards and go find the loads.
Right.
And we just realized that people, they're not going to really consider a solution if it's not going to also check off some solutions that they were looking for. So they were looking for just bringing loads all together into one place. We met them with which loads you should be looking for. And they said, no, we want to see all the loads in one place. So we did that for them. And that was a big hurdle to figure out how we can take all the loads, all the different load boards, and allow the user to connect them all and see all the loads together. That was a big challenge. And then on the sales side, I'd say the biggest hurdle we experienced was just generally messaging to our target audience. We're coming from the academia side of things, and we're thinking in more scientific terms about how to explain what we do and what our solution is. But we're meeting a real blue collar segment of the market who they're real straight talking, and you just have to not simplify things, but change the way you even approach how you message it,
right?
To take them out of, hey, this guy didn't go take a calculus class. He has been doing hard math, calculating things on the fly. So the way he words a solution around that is different than how you would as a professor or an engineer.
Sure. Now that you've been through this journey, this ride that you've managed to successfully navigate, and you have the benefit of hindsight, if you had hypothetically speaking, a time machine and you were able to go back, say 12, 24 months, what would be the one thing you would do differently?
One thing I would do differently, I probably would have tried to spend a little bit more time planning before going to the market. We just jumped out there saying what we believed was a solution and asked people to pay us for it. And it took a solid 7-8 months before we could really convince people that it was worth spending the money on. We had a lot of free users for a while before we were able to convince people that this is actually helping you, and now this is something that needs to be paid for.
Right.
So I would say if we had planned a little bit more in advance about how we were going to go to market and make the phases of going to market with like, okay, we're going to get a few free users, and then we're going to take those testimonies, and then we're going to start charging money. I think it would have made things a lot easier because we just did it on the fly, and it brought a lot of challenges along with it.
Got it. No, thanks for sharing. So now you've gone through that process, you're now charging customers and you're getting traction, the product's obviously evolving. What are your plans for the next 12 to 24 months from a growth milestones perspective? How are you targeting those key areas of growth for efRouting?
Yeah, that's a good question. The next 12 months is really all about scaling. We're looking to grow our user base by, really, when you look at the numbers, at least 5x within the next 12 months. And on top of that, the development side of things, we're looking to really boost all sides of how well the platform is usable and how it can be used for different segments of the market so that we can start approaching larger carriers and provide the same sort of solution for them when they're, doing some spot market, some dedicated freight. But yeah, I guess the way we're approaching it is really just, quarter by quarter, just having quotas and different strategies that we're implementing to hit those goals. And that's the plan.
Awesome. And for those folks out there watching and listening who are super interested in what efRouting do and the services you provide, where can they go, Gino, to find out more?
Yeah, so you can go to efrouting.com. We also are on social, LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and usually people come to us through a meeting scheduled. So you'll see on the website or on any of our socials how to set up a meeting, and we'll be ready to talk more and explore solutions together.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure that we include those links in the description of the podcast when it goes out. And listen, great insights, Gino. Thank you so much for sharing those with us on the podcast. And thank you for everybody out there listening and watching for joining. We'll see you in the next episode of the AI Ripple podcast. And for now, Gino, thank you so much and goodbye.
Awesome, Adrian. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure having you.